Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night asking, "Why does my grown child treat me like the enemy?" You gave them everything, your time, your energy, your heart. And now, in your later years, instead of warm phone calls or a simple thank you, all you get is coldness, blame, or silence. If that sounds familiar, you are far from alone. Many parents over 60 are quietly carrying this kind of heartbreak. It's not something you usually bring up at the dinner table or while chatting with a neighbor, but it weighs heavily. The pain of watching your child, your own flesh and blood, turn emotionally distant, condescending, or even cruel is unlike any other. And when that child shows strong, selfish, entitled, or deeply self-focused traits, it becomes a special kind of grief, one that confuses, isolates, and overwhelms. That's why today I want to talk to you about something that's often left unsaid. The hard truth that there are certain things you simply cannot expect from a child who behaves this way, and I don't say that to make you feel worse. I say it so you can finally let go of unrealistic hopes that are draining your spirit, and instead start building peace and strength within yourself, because you deserve that. Let's take a look at the first hard truth, one that might explain why you keep walking away from conversations with your child, feeling like your words didn't matter at all. It's this: you can't expect a child like this to genuinely care about your feelings, ideas, or beliefs unless it somehow benefits them. You may have noticed it during the holidays. Maybe you tried to share a fond memory, or tell them about a show you're enjoying, or bring up a worry you have about your health. And what did they do? Cut you off, change the subject, roll their eyes. Maybe they acted like they were listening, but deep down you could tell they weren't really with you. Children with these self-centered patterns often live with a kind of emotional tunnel vision. Everything is about them, their goals, their stress, their image, their struggles, your inner world. The thoughts and feelings that make you who you are doesn't seem to register unless you're saying something that feeds their ego or supports their narrative. And even then, they might twist your words to make it about them. That doesn't mean you stop having thoughts or feelings. It means you stop setting yourself up for rejection when you try to share them with someone who has shown over and over again that they just don't have the space for your inner life. That's not your fault. That's the result of their emotional immaturity. And here's another truth that's just as hard, but just as important to accept. You cannot expect your child, when they operate from this level of self-absorption, to take responsibility for how they've hurt you or to show genuine regret. Now, I know some of you are holding out hope. Maybe you're thinking, if I just say it the right way, maybe they'll finally see what they've done. Or maybe they don't realize how badly they hurt me. Maybe I should explain it again. I understand that. When you love someone and they've wounded you, the heart naturally wants healing. But with a child who behaves in a deeply self-centered and emotionally defensive way, accountability is not something that comes easy, if it ever comes at all. Why? Because deep down they're not built for that kind of self-reflection. To take responsibility would mean admitting they're not perfect, that they made a mistake, that they hurt someone, and for someone who relies heavily on protecting their ego and image, that feels unbearable. It threatens the fragile sense of self they've built their whole identity around. So, instead of saying, "I'm sorry I hurt you," they say, "You're too sensitive." Instead of admitting they lashed out, they say, "You made me act that way." Instead of asking how you feel, they accuse you of always playing the victim. It's like trying to walk through a locked door over and over, expecting one day it will open. The sooner you stop expecting them to unlock that door for you, the sooner you can stop bruising your soul against it. And that opens up space for something else, something better. like reclaiming your dignity, like focusing on what you can control, your peace, your joy, your future. Now let's talk about something that catches many people off guard. It's that moment when you do something kind or generous. Maybe you send a birthday card, help them with a down payment, or forgive them for the 100th time and you think, maybe this will warm their heart, maybe they'll appreciate it. But instead there's silence, or worse, entitlement. That's because you can't expect a child with deeply self-focused behavior to do good or recognize your goodness. Unless there's something in it for them, this can be deeply painful, especially for those of us raised in a time when gratitude mattered, when we were taught to write thank you notes, when we learned to say I'm sorry and I love you and mean it. But for children who operate from a place of entitlement and emotional disconnection, those values often fall by the wayside. They may talk about kindness in public or post inspirational quotes online, but in private with you there's no recognition, no warmth, no thanks. In fact, some of the kindest things you've done may have been forgotten entirely, or worse, twisted into accusations later on. You only helped me so you could control me. You didn't do that for me. You did it for yourself. It's confusing. It's maddening. But it's also part of the same painful pattern. They can't let your goodness shine because it reminds them of what they're missing, of the depth they haven't cultivated. So instead of celebrating your generosity, they downplay it or rewrite the story entirely. That doesn't mean you stop being kind, it means you stop doing it for their approval, because that approval may never come. Instead, you start doing things for yourself, for your own peace, for your own values, for your own growth. I want you to sit with that idea for a moment. What if you started doing what's right? Not because your child will praise you for it, but because it honors the person you are? What if your life after 60 became less about seeking validation and more about reclaiming your self-worth? You've spent a lifetime being there for others. Now it's time to start being there for you. Sometimes you might find yourself wondering, am I the only one who feels like I'm walking on eggshells around my own child? You second-guess what you say. You try to be extra careful not to upset them. And yet, no matter how gently you speak or how lovingly you try to connect, somehow the conversation turns cold or sharp or just strange. That's not your imagination. It's often the reality when you're dealing with an adult child who behaves in a deeply self-centered and emotionally unpredictable way. And one of the hardest things to accept is that you can't expect them to respond to situations in ways that are emotionally appropriate or even remotely fair. You could be talking about something serious, like a health scare or the loss of a friend, and they'll react with indifference or maybe even annoyance as if your pain is inconvenient to them. But then, in another moment, they'll explode over something small, like you forgetting to return a call or accidentally mixing up a date. The emotional scale just doesn't match the situation. It's disorienting, isn't it? You keep asking yourself, was that really such a big deal? Or, why didn't they care about what I was going through? You start questioning your own judgment, your own memory, even your own sanity. That's the trap. Children who operate from this kind of emotional instability live in their own universe, where the rules change constantly and they always stay at the center. You, on the other hand, are expected to orbit around them, predicting their moods, adjusting to their reactions, and never, ever making them uncomfortable. That's not love, that's control. And once you begin to see it for what it is, you can stop blaming yourself for not getting it right. You can start stepping out of that exhausting pattern. And while we're talking about emotional reactions, there's something else you deserve to know, especially if you've spent decades trying to be the kind of parent who listens, who nurtures, who shows up when it matters most. Because if you're waiting for your child, who often behaves in a deeply self-focused and emotionally limited way, To do the same for you when you need comfort, you'll likely be met with disappointment. It's one of the most painful realizations a parent can have, that when you are hurt, mistreated, or even just needing, a shoulder to lean on your child may not be there. Not really. They might say something that sounds supportive on the surface, like, "That's too bad," or "You'll be okay," but there's no warmth in it, no real presence. Or worse, they might turn it into a comparison contest. "Oh, that's nothing. You should have seen what I went through." Or they might outright blame you for your pain. Why? Because children who operate from this self-absorbed, emotionally enmeshed mindset don't know how to be emotionally separate from others. When you share your struggles, they interpret it through their own lens. If it doesn't relate to them, or if it threatens their sense of control or superiority, they push it away. They either minimize it, redirect it, or erase it entirely. But here's the truth. Your pain matters. Your struggles, your heartbreak, your grief, they're real. And you deserve to have them seen and honored, even if not by your child. That's why it's so important, especially as we get older, to build connections with people who can hold space for us. Friends, counselors, support groups, or even a simple neighbor who listens with kindness. You are not too old to be comforted. You are not too old to be heard. And you are never too old to be treated with respect and care. And speaking of respect, let's talk about something that hits many parents like a gut punch. It happens during family gatherings, in the middle of a phone call, even at weddings, funerals, graduations. It's that sharp moment when your child says something demeaning, cutting, or manipulative, right in front of everyone. A subtle insult, a joke at your expense, a comment that leaves you stunned and small. You might laugh it off. To keep the peace, you might pretend you didn't hear it, but deep down it stings. Because you would never have said something like that to your own parents, especially not in front of others. You were raised differently. But for a child who operates from a place of entitlement and emotional dominance, moments like these are power plays. They manipulate. They humiliate. They devalue you. And just when you think, maybe this time will be different, they find a new way to make you feel less than. It might be a look, a tone, a backhanded compliment like, "Oh wow, your house actually looks clean for once." On the surface, it might seem harmless, but you know that underneath, there's a blade. The problem is, this kind of emotional warfare wears you down over time. You begin to doubt yourself. You shrink. You start showing up to gatherings with your guard already up, waiting for the next jab. That's no way to live, not in your 60s, 70s, or beyond. You deserve to be in spaces where you are respected, not reduced. You deserve conversations that uplift, not conversations where you're constantly scanning for subtle digs. And you certainly don't need to keep teaching someone how to treat you when they've had years, decades, to learn and still choose not to. Letting go of the expectation that they will stop humiliating or manipulating you doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're finally stepping into your own power. It means you are choosing to stop playing a rigged game and start living in emotional truth. You are no longer here to be the emotional punching bag. You are here to live fully, to be loved rightly, to rest in the dignity you've earned. After all the years you've spent raising your child, you might think there'd come a time, maybe after they grew up, maybe once they had kids of their own, when they'd finally pause, look back, and say, "Thank you." Or maybe, "I see now what you went through for me." But instead, what you get is silence, or worse, a strange tension when something good happens in your life. And here's why that hurts so deeply. Because you can't count on a child who is self-absorbed and competitive by nature to celebrate your joys or honor your accomplishments unless it somehow puts them in the spotlight. You might get a promotion before retirement, or finally pay off your house, or even recover from an illness. You might hope they'll be happy for you, proud of you, Or just say, "Wow, good job, Mom." But often they'll change the subject, one-up you, or make it about themselves. "Well, if it weren't for me helping you with the paperwork, you wouldn't have gotten there anyway." Or they'll say nothing at all. When you're in a joyful moment and the person you love most can't meet you in it, it creates a deep emotional void. You end up sitting alone with your happiness, questioning whether you're even allowed to feel proud. But here's the truth: you are allowed. And you shouldn't need permission from your child or anyone else to feel good about who you are and what you've done. Your wins matter, whether anyone claps for them or not. You're allowed to smile wide, even if they frown. You're allowed to feel peace, even if they bring chaos. And you're allowed to be happy, yes, even if they're not. Because the reality is, with a child who demands attention and thrives on being the center of everything, the spotlight can only shine in one direction, theirs. If you try to stand in it, even for a moment, they'll find a way to dim it, redirect it, or walk away entirely. But that doesn't mean you stop shining. It just means you learn how to shine for yourself. You spent decades putting your child first, cheering them on, sacrificing your comfort, bending your boundaries, ignoring your own needs, all in the hope that one day love would be returned in kind. But the painful truth is that love from a child who operates from a self-centered, conditional place often comes with strings or conditions or not at all. And that's where the healing begins. Not in waiting for them to change, but in choosing to reclaim your power. You are not weak for feeling exhausted. You are not selfish for needing space. You are not a failure for admitting that this relationship is hurting you. You are a wise, resilient, and loving person who deserves to be treated with kindness and respect. And if your child cannot offer you those things, it's okay to stop expecting them to. In fact, it's necessary, because when you let go of false hope, you make room for real healing. You start making different choices, ones that protect your peace, guard your heart, and open new doors. Maybe you spend less time trying to fix what can't be fixed, and more time doing what fills you up. Maybe you stop over-explaining yourself and start living with quiet confidence. Maybe you find joy in the little things again. Your morning coffee, a phone call with a true friend, a hobby that makes you feel alive. There is so much life left to live after 60. So many days to fill with people who see you clearly and treat you gently. You do not have to stay in patterns that deplete your soul. You do not have to keep knocking on closed doors. You are free. Yes, free. To define this chapter of your life in your own terms. If your child never says thank you, say it to yourself. If they never say, "I love you," surround yourself with voices who do. If they never see the goodness in you, let me remind you right now, it's there. It always has been. And it's never too late to start honoring it. I know these truths aren't easy to accept. It takes courage to admit that someone you raised, someone you love so deeply, may never be capable of giving that love back in a healthy way. But the moment you stop expecting what they cannot give, you start receiving something even better: clarity, strength, and peace. And that peace is yours to build. One boundary, one breath, one brave step at a time. So if this message spoke to your heart today, I want to invite you to keep going on this journey of healing. You are not alone, and you are not powerless. You are part of a growing community of strong, wise elders who are learning that love doesn't mean self-sacrifice without end. It means standing tall in your truth, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. If you've ever gone through any of what I've shared today, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What has helped you deal with a child who behaves in these painful, self-focused ways? What boundary changed your life? You never know who your story might help. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life. for more conversations that speak to your heart and strengthen your spirit. We've got so much more to explore together, and I don't want you to miss any of it. Here's to you, to your strength, to your freedom, to living your best life. No matter what your child chooses to do, you are still the author of your story. So let's make this next chapter the one where you finally live in peace.